This is Dr. Robert Frankel. I'm an emergency medicine and anti-aging physician, and welcome to the Modern Man Podcast. In this podcast, we talk about important topics for men, which include male aesthetics, health, and wellness. But most importantly, we try to remove the stigma of male aesthetics because I think that it's important to understand what men can do for aesthetics and how important it is for their social and psychological well-being, and ultimately just to feel and look good. So take the journey with me. It's going to be okay. It's going to be fun, so enjoy it. I think the next episode will be really interesting and informative, so take a listen. Hope you enjoy it. Again, this is Dr. Rob Frankel, and enjoy the episode. Thank you. So today's podcast is very exciting. We're going to be talking about the facial features of the subtle action star. And who better to talk about it with one of the most established movie journalists that I know, Zoe Gulikensen. She has spoken to and been interviewed people like Leonardo DiCaprio, Spielberg, Winona Ryder. She has been all over. She's an established author. She has a very, very exciting book that's coming out soon. We're excited to see it. And we're excited to talk to her because she knows the movie business, and she also knows the aesthetic business. She has a very, very interesting background, so we're excited to talk to her. We're going to talk about the aesthetics part of what makes up the facial features of a subtle action star, and we're going to talk about like the movie business as well. So it's kind of a little bit of both, and I thought that who better to speak to about this than Zoe, because Zoe actually has been on both sides. The reason why we know Zoe so well is because Zoe knows the business of movies, because, like I said, she was a great movie journalist. She's gone and kind of had met and interviewed all these movie stars, talked to them. Been a great author. She is a great author, but she also has been in the aesthetic business. She, in her spare time, actually happened to be an office manager at a med spa that I know pretty well. So let's introduce and let's give a very warm welcome to the Modern Man Podcast to Zoe Gulikensen. Welcome, Zoe.
Thank you, Dr. Frankel.
So, Zoe, it's very exciting to have you. It's going to be a really interesting podcast, and we're going to talk a little bit about movies. We're going to talk a little bit about facial features, and so what do you think? What do you think is going to be the most interesting thing to you that we're going to get into?
Well, for one, I love being back here because I'm the one that always kept you on your toes, so I'm glad to be back here doing that, first of all.
Yes.
2, I love talking movies with you. It was always one of my favorite parts of this job. And 3, you're completely right. I love seeing, being a part of the movie industry and then also working in the aesthetics industry and seeing how you can tell, looking at an actor close up and seeing if they've had work done, if they look natural, or if people now will ask me, oh, this actor looks really great. This one looks great. Oh my God, Jane Fonda, can you believe that she's 82? And I'm like, well, she's just had a really great doctor. That's the reason why she looks great compared to someone else who might not look as great, and it all comes down to the person they go to have their work done. So this is a really fun topic, and I'm so excited to be talking about this with you today.
I know, it's very true, because I do remember that we did have a lot of good times in our Facebook Lives and our different YouTube videos. You did keep me on my toes. We definitely had some good direction that you put me in, that we made sure that those Facebook Lives were a little bit more than the average Facebook Lives, don't you think?
Oh, absolutely. We know how to have fun here, but also I tend to bully people around. But it's what everybody needed, so I don't regret it.
No, that's true. That's true. But don't you remember that we really were able to make every shot just a little bit close to almost like a horror movie. I used to think.
Absolutely, very cinematic. Made sure all the different angles had good lighting, the music. We provide all services here at our med spa.
Absolutely. So we're going to talk a lot about different facial features, and so you got to meet a lot of these actors and you got to interview a bunch of them. So we're going to take a look at some of the features of them, and then you can chime in and let me know, does this kind of jive with what you kind of saw when you interviewed them? And I'm going to talk a little bit about what the specific features of the most popular models and some of the more common actors are presenting with currently. Some of the things are really interesting that I learned, actually, that you might be surprised at.
Oh, please, because I love the inside scoop on the movie industry. In fact, I do have one thing to tell you that I don't think I've ever told you before, is that, and I have to keep my source to myself because, as a good journalist, I can't reveal my sources, but when Scarlett Johansson did Lost in Translation with Bill Murray, directed by Sofia Coppola, which won an Academy Award for Best Original Screenplay, Sofia Coppola only provided the cast with seafood on set, and it was filmed in Japan, and Scarlett Johansson hated seafood and she hated sushi, so she only ate McDonald's. And the next film she did was Girl with a Pearl Earring, and she had such bad acne from just eating McDonald's the entire time that during Girl with a Pearl Earring, you see her headscarf slowly go further back on her forehead, because as filming went on, her acne went away. But it was so bad from the stress and the junk food that even an actress like Scarlett Johansson, Black Widow herself, if you eat poorly, it affects your skincare, guys. So don't eat fast food.
There you go. See, Scarlett Johansson ate McDonald's.
Yep.
Now
we know. So even she cannot avoid the repercussions of eating fast food. But please tell me all of your inside things, Dr. Frankel, because I want to know what you know about aesthetics and actors in Hollywood.
Yeah, well, I'm going to tell you. So, back if you look at some of the movies from the 1950s, and I know you watch a lot of them.
Oh, I do. I love me some TCM, Turner Classic Movie Channel movies.
If you look at those actors compared to today's actors, they look very different, right?
Yes.
They all kind of had that very kind of tall, kind of very kind of particular look compared to today that is very different. And so, but there is some very similar. There's some similarities that do kind of continue compared to the 1950s to today, and we'll talk some of the similarities, and then we'll talk some of the differences.
Okay.
Symmetry is always very important. So symmetry in the face is really kind of valuable. When you look at everybody's face, you definitely want to have the face to look very similar on both sides. And we always say that, the two sides of the face are not twins, but brothers or sisters, right?
Really, it's really interesting because right now there is a famous filter going on Instagram and on TikTok where it'll show you what your face would look like if your face was symmetrical, and everyone looks weird.
if they were symmetrical. Yeah.
Right.
Right. So I mean that's the thing. Like, so it is interesting because like, but you're not going to be completely symmetrical, but you have to be pretty close, because if you're not close, you think about it, like when patients have, like when somebody has a stroke, for instance, and you could see that they're not fully symmetrical, they're not going to look, they're going to look not, their best, right?
Correct.
So that's when you see a major difference in somebody's face. So if you have a significant difference in one side to another, that's going to really kind of give you a abnormal look.
Oh, so hence the emphasis on not twins, but brothers.
Correct.
Okay.
But
I hear that a lot with eyebrows. As a female, personally, that's always what people have told me, that when you're doing your eyebrows or styling them, that they should not look the same, but get as close as possible. Is that true for both men and women?
That's definitely true. Like, okay. You want to have, especially, the eyes have to look the same. Like there actually, speaking of like twins, there was actually a bar in Manhattan that used to be just for twins. Did you ever hear of this bar?
No, I've never heard of this.
This is the most interesting place in the world. Like, everybody who used to go there were twins. I mean, you can go there if you weren't a twin. You could just, like, be a person who was just like a normal person.
Oh, but you'd be like shunned if you weren't a twin.
No, you could actually go there and be like a normal person. But you would be like looking at these twins, and it would be almost like, I don't know. It almost was kind of like voyeurism in a way.
Oh, okay. No, that's cool.
But it was called Twins, and the whole premise of the bar was that people would go there if they were twins. And so it was kind of interesting, because people would go there that weren't twins, and they would actually look at these twins. But anyway, that is here and not there. But if you look at your eyes, yes, definitely the eyes, the eyebrows, looking at somebody's, the set of their eyes really has, a really important way at how the shape of your face is going to, is going to look. So if you have some asymmetry within the lower part of your face, it's going to be a little bit more kind of forgiving, as opposed to if you have asymmetry in the upper part of your face. So they say that you can have asymmetry maybe at 5% of the upper portion of your face, and asymmetry in the lower portion of your face at 75% of your face. What does that mean? So basically what that means is that as you go higher up in your face, the people who are more kind of the movie stars are going to be more symmetrical as they are closer to their eyes and their foreheads, and as they get lower down, they can be a little bit more asymmetrical.
So you mentioned before about actors from the 50s and older movies. So I'm thinking of Lauren Bacall and Humphrey Bogart, or like Katharine Hepburn with her very wide set eyes. Or I'm picturing her, and I feel like she has very like symmetrical eyes, I believe. So what you're saying is that because she does have symmetrical eyes as she's going down the face, she should be more asymmetrical, or the opposite.
I mean, you can be more asymmetrical as you get down lower in the face, but the point is that like it's so vitally important to have symmetry in your eyes, because that's really the first thing that people are going to look at. And so when we talk about aesthetics specifically, we're going to talk about how to make sure that when have patients that may have some asymmetry, how we're going to be able to improve that. You could have some more asymmetry in the lower portion of your face, and most people do. Like, what I'm saying is that 75% of people have more asymmetry in the lower portion of the face than in the upper portion of the face. And the major reason why that is because we chew. Like, and usually we'll chew on one side of the mouth compared to the other, right? So, so when you chew, you always kind of chew on one side of your mouth.
Yes, that is very accurate for me. Yes.
Right. So, like when you chew, what ends up happening is that muscle, that lower portion of your jaw becomes a little thicker, a little wider, and so that creates the jowl.
Is that the masseter muscle?
Correct.
So, this makes a lot of sense because I always say that because I grind my teeth at night, the right side of my face is like, that muscle is like jacked.
Correct. Exactly.
And that my face feels very asymmetrical because I feel like that side of my face is bigger than the other side.
Exactly.
Because I grind my teeth in my sleep.
Exactly.
Oh, so I'm totally right. I'm on the nose. Okay.
You totally make perfect sense. And whether it is because you grind your teeth, and a lot of people do that, and or because the fact that you chew on that side of your mouth, or one side of your mouth compared to another, that's the reason why people develop these, the asymmetry on that side of the jaw, and so, or that side of the mouth, or they just get more kind of hanging portion of their, kind of
their jaw, or so like their jowls, if they have that. Okay.
Exactly.
So then, what is something that I can do to help this problem? Now that you have affirmed my suspicions.
So yeah, so let's talk about it. So I'm going to talk about. We're going to go through the entire face.
Okay.
We're going to try to fix all our problems, our asymmetry, and we're going to go and see how we could fix them.
You mean so we can fix not just the lower part of my face? We can also fix any asymmetry going on at the top of our faces too?
Absolutely, of course.
All right.
Yeah. So because of the fact that we know that, we want to make sure that the very high portion of our face is symmetrical, because that is, that has to be, because that is one of the things that is most important to be an action star, which we all want to be. Right?
Absolutely. Who doesn't?
Right.
Unless you are Dr. Frankel and you want to be a specifically horror movie action star.
That's true. That's true.
Which you already are, but you just want to continue to be.
That's true. Thank you, Zoe. Or Zoe, who wants to be Buzz Lightyear.
Absolutely. Put me in a spacesuit. Let me go out there.
That's correct. So let's put it this way. So let's talk about like the area kind of like in the upper portion of the eyes, for instance. Like, so if you're sleeping on one side of your head, one side compared to the other, you can develop, very kind of shallow temples, right? The temple area is like that area, like right on the very high portion of your head, and it kind of sits like right on the sides of your eye, and you know that area because they always say don't get hit with a bat right in your temples.
Oh, and it's also the place where you usually see like the typical, if someone has a headache or someone is stressing them out, they like rub the sides of their forehead and like they rub their temple areas, right?
Correct.
I'm picturing a man who's stressed out over work. He's leaning over his desk and he's rubbing his temples. That's the spot, right?
Correct.
Okay.
And I think like that famous statue when the guy was sitting on the toilet, he was holding his temples.
Yes.
So the temples, though, are really important for the integrity of kind of the eye socket, or what we call the orbit.
Really? Okay.
Because when you think about it, because of the fact that, there's a few different places where the eye socket kind of sits. It sits kind of below, kind of like where the cheeks are. Mm-hmm. It sits kind of like on the sides where the temples are, and it sits kind of right above, like where the forehead is. Now, the forehead kind of has like a strong kind of bone that sits there. So that's usually stays pretty stable. Below where the cheeks are, now that could change, and we'll talk a little bit about that. But if the temples lose integrity, that could change the entire kind of way that the eye kind of sits. And so when the orbit becomes weak, and a lot of times you'll see this, all of a sudden what I find is that the eye kind of drifts downward, and you'll start seeing that instead of having kind of, you kind of always, I always kind of think about it this way, like when you're kind of like smiling, your mouth kind of sits upward, and then when you're frowning, your mouth goes downward. It's the same thing with your eyes. Like when your temples start to kind of degrade a little bit, all of a sudden your eyes start to go downward.
That sounds terrible. I don't want that happening.
I know, and it kind of makes you look sad.
Oh, that sounds even worse. You can't be an action star looking sad all the time.
I know, exactly. And then also your brow actually kind of goes downward as well. And so like your eyebrows. So you think about it, your eyebrows go down, your eyes kind of like go downward, so you're kind of like sad. Your eyebrows go downward. You all of a sudden you're kind of like tired, and it's all a big kind of, you're kind of like a sad sack,
Keanu Reeves, there's the meme about sad Keanu Reeves, but he doesn't look sad when he's in all those John Wick movies. He's kicking some butt.
That's right.
So what is besides the other answer of him being a vampire, what is he doing to make sure that he doesn't look sad, because he's been being a movie star for so long?
He's got great temples.
So, okay, but how do we make sure that we also have great temples?
Well, this is how we do it. So, basically, the best way to do it is with dermal fillers. And so... Wait,
I've been working here with you for how many years? I did not know you could put filler in your temples.
Well, you can. And
wow.
we do. And so... You could put dermal fillers, and there's a few different fillers that we use. We could use Juvederm Voluma, we could use Restylane Lift, or we could even use, which is newer, Restylane Contour. It's a thicker filler. You need to kind of use a filler that's a little bit thicker, that really kind of gets, that volume into that area, to be able to kind of take up that space, so that way it's going to give you that lift. If you do it the right way, it's a very safe procedure. That's why you want to make sure that if you're getting the filler done, you're getting it done by experienced hands, right?
Right. You want to go to someone where it doesn't look, where the goal is that it looks like you didn't have any work done.
Correct. That's one thing. But also, that if you ever touch your temple, Zoe, for me.
Okay.
What do you feel there?
I feel kind of like a little bit of a hollow dip.
Uh-huh. Do you feel like some pounding thing next to there also?
Yes. Like I can feel my heartbeat.
Right. You feel like this pounding thing, and that's that's called the temporal artery.
So okay, I don't want filler in an artery. That doesn't sound healthy.
Right. So there's a nice big artery there, and that the reason why they always say don't get hit in the temples is because that big artery sits there. So, but the thing is that if you have the correct technique done, you're not going to have the filler done near that artery or anywhere, to the place that filler is going to go anywhere near that. You're going to have it in a way that the filler is going to go very kind of safely in that area. It's going to fill it nicely. But the beautiful thing is that once it goes into the right place, it's going to lift the eyes. It's going to give you that kind of lift. It's going to make your eyes smile. And it's going to give you that, Keanu Reeves, John Wick appearance.
That sounds awesome.
So that's the first thing. So that's the first thing that you want to kind of give, that
just a nice little difference that a man can make as he's getting older without looking like he's walking around sad all the time. Because if you remember in the beginning of those movies, he was really sad because someone killed his dog, and that's why he went on a full movie rampage, right? Avenging his dog. So if you don't want to have the sad Keanu Reeves look, make sure you get some filler in your temples.
That's right.
Exactly. Wow. All right. Learned stuff already, guys. This is great.
Yeah. And so the next thing that I thought was very interesting that, I always heard that, having thick eyebrows was, sort of maybe not the best thing. But I saw a picture of Tom Cruise with very thin eyebrows, and it was a really not a flattering picture.
Really?
Yeah.
Light eyebrows on Tom Cruise? That
doesn't sound good, right?
No, that doesn't. I can't picture him with... How's that supposed to go well with his aviators?
Exactly. And that's the point. The point is that most, movie stars and models even have very thick eyebrows.
That's also the trend these days. In the early 2000s, they tricked all the women into getting very skinny eyebrows, but men have always been able to keep their thick eyebrows, and I think it's the most attractive in men. If they have dark, thick eyebrows. Again, Humphrey Bogart, Jimmy Stewart, back to the old movie stars. That's a leading man, signature style.
And then, of course, just as an aside, of course, as, just to, put a little, interest into the podcast, one person who has thick eyebrows, who was in a movie, in the podcast.
That would be you.
Yes.
It would be you.
Yes.
And you are... What do any of the classic horror film icons have skinny eyebrows? Michael Myers does not have light eyebrows.
He does not.
No. He would be less frightening if he had light, skinny eyebrows.
That's true. But would you tell the podcast audience what movie I was in, so that way they would...
So I, again, as a journalist, I have my integrity secrets. If you want to reveal your own secret, that's up to you. But I do not reveal.
You will not.
I will not reveal it. That is up to you. That you are my source, and I will not disclose that information.
Okay. Well, maybe we'll talk about it at some other point. And
you guys have to stay tuned for the next episode if you want to find that out.
Yes, we'll have to go. So
if we're talking about eyebrows, then what are guys supposed to do if they are not like you, and we're not graced with thick action star eyebrows? What are they supposed to? How do they fix that?
So that's a really interesting question, because there is an answer to that question. Actually, there is a.
Does
product.
It involve needles?
Well, it can.
Okay. I'm looking out for all you kind of squeamish guys out there.
But
I want to give options for all of you. I see you.
But there is a product that you can use that doesn't involve needles, though, too.
Okay.
So there is a product that is used for lashes, actually. Women use for lashes.
That is true.
And it actually works for eyebrows.
I can attest to that. It does. It works very well. I am an individual that wears glasses, and I had to stop using this product because my lashes were so long that they were brushing up against my glasses, and it started to annoy the heck out of me. So I stopped using it. But it works very well. And I have heard you're right. It does do wonders on eyebrows.
Yes. And that product would be Latisse. So Latisse actually, when used for eyebrows, it actually adds volume to eyebrows. So if you are somebody who has thinner eyebrows and wants to, but right now women who have thinner eyebrows need thicker eyebrows too.
Absolutely. It's back in style. No one is doing the mid-2000s Paris Hilton skinny eyebrows anymore. Everyone wants the Hailey Bieber thick eyebrows these days.
That's right. So losing, the problem of thin eyebrows and the complete farce that came with it. We're back to thick eyebrows. We're all in, and Latisse is definitely one of the ways that we can definitely add to it. Now,
so I've done Latisse for my eyelashes, and I have tried it for my eyebrows, and I was a teenager. I was in high school in 2004, so I overplucked my eyebrows like crazy, and Latisse did not do very much for me personally because I took away too much eyebrow. Okay. So what then would you recommend if, as a backup for men and women, in this case, if I wanted thicker eyebrows, what would be the next step then?
So the next step then you'd have to go into something that would stimulate your hair follicles, and the best kind of natural way to do that without doing transplantation, which we don't advocate for. We always look for the non-surgical, most natural way to do things.
If you guys have ever seen videos of hair transplantation, don't look it up. It is, I regret looking it up. So don't do it. This is why this treatment that Dr. Frankel is about to recommend is top notch and a much better alternative.
So the thing that we would recommend here is the either PRP or PRF. Now we actually do more PRF, which is platelet-rich fibrin, but you could also do PRP, which is platelet-rich plasma. Now what are these products? This is actually your own blood. We take them and we spin it down to your specific cells, your specific platelets, and these platelets have growth factors, they have stem cells, and we're going to re-inject it into the area where the follicles are. And so what that does ultimately is they stimulate the reproduction of these follicles and the ultimate hair growth.
So they kind of take these dormant hair follicles and they just kind of wake them back up, is what you're saying.
Essentially.
And starts them to start regrowing hair again.
Exactly. So you could do this obviously on your brows, especially if you have lost a lot of hair in that area and and it's just not working with the Latisse. And if you have especially patches of loss, which I've seen patients who've had that, it's definitely a good option. But it will work on your scalp, as well. I think, didn't we have one patient that came in who had it on their mustache?
Absolutely. And I believe that worked out wonderfully. And my fiance is 100% wanting to come in and get it done for his very patchy beard in the upcoming months.
Yeah, so I think that it is. It's definitely something that, that I think that is definitely a great option for any type of hair growth, as well as just skincare, in general. We talked a lot about this in the past.
We could talk about PRP or PRF for days on how amazing it is and all the wonders it can do for your skin and other treatments, but I love that you brought it up for eyebrows because that's amazing, and it's such a huge part of, especially for men, when you look at a man's face, they're a very defining part of can you imagine if Martin Scorsese did not have his signature eyebrows? That would be, I can't even imagine. Dan Levy? What? Or I'm sorry, what's his name? Eugene Levy and his son Dan Levy, if they both did not have those classic eyebrows.
Do you remember when Eugene Levy, did you see the movie, I can't remember I think it was Best in Show, when he had two left feet?
Yes. it would be less funny if he didn't have those eyebrows.
Yes.
So just across the board, if you're a comedy star, an action star,
That's
in your
true.
own life, you need to have those eyebrows, or else it's not going to work, man.
That's true. That's very true. But yes, and so there are other things that we will be talking about in the future. I think you'll be excited to hear about this, Zoe.
Okay.
But we'll keep people, on the edge of their seat. This is edge of the seat type stuff, actually.
We have cliffhangers here.
Totally.
We're gonna go full in on the movie metaphors, man.
So we have some really interesting stuff that I have been really kind of researching, and we are probably going to be introducing soon. But I don't want to really kind of introduce them yet. So we'll just who shot JR type stuff.
Yeah, you're gonna have to wait for the next episode.
That's it. All right. So then here's another one, and this one I don't really have I don't know how to fix this, but I thought this is so interesting that I had to bring it up.
Uh-oh.
So on my research, they said that one of the biggest things in modeling that the people need to have gaps in their front teeth.
What? I mean, it is pretty famous, I guess, now because they spent so long trying to make models look perfect, and Tyra Banks doing America's Next Top Model. They told a girl that they had to get rid of the gap in the front of her teeth, and there's a big controversy about that. So now they made all the models look the same. Now they're trying to find models that don't look the same. So I would be really interested to hear if they have reverse braces. Is that going to be a thing now?
Now these people are literally, I was watching this video where they're this woman was they had a saw between her teeth, and they were she was trying to create a gap between her two front teeth.
What? that woman goes in the same group as the girls who get their toes shortened because they don't like that their second toe is as long as their big toe. I can't. That is a whole level of unnecessary that I don't agree with.
Yes.
Oh,
but
my gosh.
I guess, this was very interesting to me. I really kind of because the whole, money spending on braces and, everything like that. And now they're completely going on this, backwards, slide and saying you have to have a gap between your teeth. I mean, I think that's amazing. But, I thought that was so interesting. I thought you'd be interested in that. So.
Oh my gosh, it's crazy. Well, that was a nice little tidbit
Yeah.
from trying to look perfect. So we don't want you guys to look perfect. So be proud of the gap in your teeth. But please also do not take a saw to your teeth if you have a gap.
Right.
Please enjoy it and be proud of it.
Right, and we're not going to be doing that, are we, Zoe?
Oh God, no. Oh my
Okay.
gosh, no.
Okay.
No.
Okay, all right.
Not
very
here.
good. Okay, so now sticking to the eyes and when you look at the male actors, right? So one of the things is that the way that their eyes are set, though, also is that their eyes have to be deeply set. You cannot have eyes that are kind of more outward, and you can't have the whites of their eyes, showing more than just a little bit. I mean, you want to have the setting of their eyes kind of deep, and further in than than anything
Right.
else.
You think of someone like Sir Patrick Stewart or Michael Fassbender or any of these just leading men of any age. They have that you don't. Also, if you have too much white of your eyes showing, you kind of just look like a crazy person.
Right.
So,
I mean, there was an actor from the early, I think the early '80s. I think his name was Marty Feldman. Do you remember Marty Feldman?
he was in Young Frankenstein, wasn't he?
Yes, he's Young Frankenstein. He wasn't an action star, and his eyes were definitely not deeply set. His eyes looked very white.
Bulging.
Yes. And so he was exactly opposite.
It was perfect for that movie.
Right. And he was the exact opposite of what you want to have as an action star. So
what do you do if your eyes are bulging then?
So, I mean, the best way to deeply set the eyes is you want to use Botox or neurotoxin, because what you're going to basically do is you're going to create a lift in the area of the forehead. And so what that does is that creates the lift in the forehead, so that creates the more deeply set area of the orbit, and it's going to create a little bit kind of further outward appearance of the forehead, and then around the outside of the crow's feet, and you can see that the eyeball itself is actually a little bit more deeply set. So you're going to use Botox to actually bring the eye a little bit further in.
Is this a good idea that we're giving this information out? Because I feel like serial killers can use this information to conceal their crazy eyes. So, I mean, use this information wisely, fellows.
Yes.
Please,
we're not.
If you're a crazy person, do not use this tactic to hide your craziness.
Yes.
Use it to win over the ladies that you're trying to charm and wine and dine.
Or try to get a part, so that way you can be interviewed by Zoe.
That is true.
Yes,
if you're trying to make it in the movie biz and auditioning for Mr. Spielberg himself.
That's right. Now the other thing that happens is that sometimes, like, you could see, like, in the lower portion of your eye, what happens is that, like, the eye becomes like hollow, or you can see the darkness under the eye, and so that also creates less of a deep set eye as well. And so you really have to find a way to create volume below the eye, and sometimes that's the problem that makes the eye not look deeply set. So
wow, that's so fascinating, because usually patients come in complaining about having that really, like, dark circles sagging under the eyes.
Right. And so the best way to kind of, like, fix that is we have it two different ways. I mean, you could do something like put dermal filler in, and of course we put very thin filler in that area, like a Bellatero. And the reason why we use thin filler, of course, is because that area is, the skin is very thin, and so you want to use something that's not going to be thick. It's going to not show a lot underneath the orbit, but it's going to give you that nice little kind of volume.
Nice little subtle touch. No one will be able to tell that you had any work done. Mm-hmm. It'll just be enough of a difference where people say, oh, you look very rested, or you look great, but I can't put my finger on why. And you can just say to yourself, like, oh, I'm drinking more water.
That's right. You don't have to tell anybody.
Nope.
And the other thing is dermal infusion. Now, this is a little less intense. You've had this before.
Oh, absolutely. I love this. And it is very, very low intensity. So even for the more squeamish side of our listeners, you will have no problem getting this done. And the results are amazing.
Yeah. So you're using very small needles. You have a combination within the bottle of filler, saline, and a little bit of Botox. And what it does is you're creating a little bit of on the very superficial layer, a little bit of filler and a little bit of Botox. What the Botox does is it actually is going to make the pores kind of smaller, because it actually is going to affect the pores, and it's going to affect the hair follicles, and it shrinks them right away. So it makes everything smoother, and it creates that kind of darkness, and it creates the darkness and that is there, and it makes it go away. So it really helps it.
Just a nice little airbrush look to give that action movie star look, these are the treatments that these movie stars are doing before they go out and put on their aviators like Tom Cruise and go film something like the new Top Gun film.
That's right.
Which, did you know, Dr. Frankel, that they filmed as much footage for the new Top Gun film as they did for all 3 Lord of the Rings movies?
No, I did not know that.
Because there is no CGI used in the new Top Gun movie.
Wow.
Everything is real footage, and it is not in IMAX because the IMAX cameras are too big to fit in the airplanes. So everything is real footage.
Wow.
So even if you're not a Top Gun fan, you should go see it in theaters. I'm not getting paid to say this, but you should go see it just to see it on a big screen for that movie magic. And you'll be able to see, because it's on the big screen, how very smooth and ageless Tom Cruise looks with his dark eyebrows in the movie.
Yes, I'm sure he has dark eyebrows, and I'm sure he has a lot of filler, and that we have to look, because he has not aged since Risky Business, I would say.
No, absolutely not. And unless he did something crazy when he did Interview with a Vampire and did some method acting there, he certainly has had a lot of work done to make Maverick look just as good in this Top Gun movie as he did in the first one.
Yes, I'm sure. So, the last portion, that we're going to talk a little bit about is that, so from the eyes, we talked earlier about the jawline, and we kind of went and we discussed about the chewing. We talked about how everything, has to be, symmetrical, but how a lot of times that things are not. And so, I know that, Zoe, you are a big advocate and a big listener of the Modern Man podcast. And I know you listened to the superhero episode, one of your favorite. I did. So, and we talked a lot about how the square of strength, the square of strength, really kind of gives you the entire kind of area in the lower face that creates the sharp contours of that area. And so, that kind of creates the angles that we really kind of look for. And this is all done, again, by dermal fillers.
100%. Because if you think about it, even Bruce Wayne himself, when he puts on the bat cowl, it covers everything but his lower face. So he has to have that really sharp jawline, and he's wearing a bat suit, for Christ's sakes. Like, you need to make this man look menacing somehow. So you got to have that really strong jawline on him for him to be menacing in 2022, right? Like, character was created almost 100 years ago. You still need, it's a lot different than the TV show when he was running around in, like, underpants. The strong jawline is, like, the defining characteristic of Superman, Batman, and everyone across the board in every superhero movie these days.
Absolutely. Although, that TV show was, I think the best Batman that there was, though.
I can't really argue against you.
Yes,
Adam West was a fantastic Batman.
He definitely was. And, I think that some of the traps that were there were iconic, honestly.
And those stunts and everything. Absolutely. Better than Ben Affleck.
No
you
doubt.
know what I'm saying?
Oh, no doubt. So, honestly, like, all aesthetics should be a perfect combination of enhancement of the area and, defining and sharpening the angles. The sharp jaw, the nice cheek, our idea of the square of strength is really the best way to achieve the final piece of the action star. With all the action stars, we will create, more of the movies that some of them will star in.
Well, that's why we're having such a boom with all the influx of all the new Marvel properties, all the movies, the TV shows, all the new Star Wars movies and TV shows that are coming out. Ewan McGregor just reprising his role as Obi-Wan Kenobi. That TV show has been such a massive hit lately, and he looks just as good as he did when the prequels came out, which we don't really talk about, but when they came out in 1999. So these guys wouldn't still be able to be superheroes if it wasn't for all these subtle touches that male actors, these aesthetic treatments that they have to get, because everybody ages, even though men do age better than women, but they still need some help.
I don't know that's
as well.
True. I don't know that's true, but I think that it is true that, you know, the nice thing about these days is for both men and women that, you know, there is a real great option of, you know, the ability to contour, you know, our face in a more subtle way than the old surgeries that were, I think, more clunky, more kind of obvious. And, you know, when you used to see somebody who was getting like surgery, and even today, I mean, you see a lot of patients who get surgery that it's an obvious, you know, fact. And
talk about Top Gun, Val Kilmer. Have you Googled what he looks like lately? That guy is the epitome of someone who had a bad doctor.
Well, I mean, I thought he was on the, you know, I didn't even know he was alive, actually.
Yeah. I mean, you look at him, you wouldn't be able to tell he is either, so.
Okay. Well, there you go. I'm going to have to Google that now. But, yeah, so, and it's, and some of the times that you know, I watched some of the movies, and it's very hard to watch some of the movies because you get so distracted by some of the bad, you know, like, cosmetic plastics work that some of the actors and actresses had, that you can't even watch the movies. They look so different. So you want a subtle change. I mean, that's really the best approach.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Nothing
too drastic. You want to go something where you can still age gracefully and have treatments that make it look natural.
Right. And that's really what we advocate for here. So so anyway, this was a lot of fun, Zoe. I mean, I think that I think we really were able to hone in on what the, you know, action stars really, you know, really kind of had and really look like, and
how you can also go home, listening at home or in your car, to and from work, wherever you are listening, that you can also look like an action star too.
Yeah.
And it's very popular, and it's what people, your friends may not be talking about it, but they might be getting it done too. So listen, Dr. Frankel, and thank you so much for having me as a guest on your podcast. I love listening to it. You have such a great voice for podcasts, and I listen to a lot of podcasts, so you know me, I wouldn't lie to you. I'd be very straight and upfront with you.
I know, Zoe, I know. Well, thank you for being on the podcast. I hope you come on and, you know, visit more. I mean, you're a great co-host, and, you know, you definitely add a lot to the show. And
absolutely.
I'm sure that I'm going to get a lot of comments saying that, you know, bring Zoe back.
Absolutely. Anytime. So I will be back soon, guys.
All right. And thank you for your listenership. So, again, like, share, and comment on anything you want about the podcast. I appreciate your listenership, and we'll see you again soon. Thank you again.